thank you all for fasting. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for making this an extraordinary, beneficial Ramadan to us all. I am not able to fast as I used to fast because of my health condition. So today and tomorrow, we are feeding 2,000 people with a meal. And I want to thank Sister Kamala for allowing us to use foodies and how to eat to live to bring 2,000 meals to people that I pray will find it a delicious, delectable treat.
Last year, the minister called me, reached out to me, and I humbly accepted his request to feed 1,000 people during the month of Ramadan. Last year, as this year also, he was not able to fast due to health conditions. And so feeding 1,000 people was his giving back into Ramadan. So this year he called me again on my cell phone and said, "Sister, I would like for you to feed 2,000 people." Of course, I took the challenge. So we'll be feeding 1,000 out of the Foodie Spot restaurant and 1,000 out of Let's Eat to Live in a 2-day time frame, Saturday and Sunday again. As we try to follow the instruction of Honorable Minister Farrakhan and his request, we want to make sure that our people receive a hot meal as he requested, a hot meal. So we're providing them herb-baked chicken, vegetable basmati rice, and cabbage medley. You know, it's a pretty general meal that can sit in anybody's stomach. This year, I'm able to reach out to Sister Captain Alice, who is the regional captain here in Chicago, and she appointed 8 sisters, 4 at Eat to Live and 4 at the Foodie Spot. And we're at Let's Eat to Live restaurant, as you can see. And this is the food that we're giving. We're giving chicken, cabbage, and vegetable rice. All right, we doing it. We on a mission. And Brother Captain Dwayne told me, just prepare the food. He got this.
But when we got the call, man, we went to work immediately.
He say he be where the shooters be, I be where the shooters be. Trenches ain't nothing new to me, that's the best place to recruit for me. Sometimes I move with 20 men, sometimes it's only 2 or 3. You thought I was just talking, pulled up on them, had the fruit with me. I see clout chasing activists, phony politicians, crooked police, word, God is my witness. He said, why it seem like the violence just won't stop, they pay attention. The system designed to work this way, crime pays, it's a business.
The young brothers went out, let the people know that we were coming. They had actually scouted out the best places to go and what buildings to go into in the projects. We had brothers on 79th and Cottage Grove who filled up for all of the intersections. But they knew what they were gonna do because we mapped it out, we planned it out. Those who are considered leaders in the community, our young brothers, our intelligent 20-year-old brother, 30-year-old brothers, who have men following them, but have mad respect for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the nation. We contacted those brothers and let them know that we were coming, and they walked with us.
Tell them what we doing. Tell them man, we giving out free food, man. We feeding the homeless right here on 71st and Jeffrey. We started on 71st and Merle. Thanks to Big Bro. We passing out this food, helping our people as a black community standing as one.
Come on
we
now,
got
what
the
we
golden
pushing,
child.
man? What we pushing, man?
Pushing unity and peace, man. We got Big Bro right here in the trenches, really though.
Yes, sir.
For sure.
You know, man.
You know,
From the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, man. That's who all this from.
They walked with us. They called the people out of the buildings. They let the people know in advance that we were coming. And it was such a spectacle. It was so beautiful. The women came and they ate the food right there, brother. Some came back more than once. Can I get another one for my brother? for my sister. We didn't deny the people, man. We gave the people what they asked for. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has some young soldiers. He has soldiers in the mosque who have been soldiering the Final Call newspaper and have gone to places where one brother told us Saturday, he said, you know, the police can't come around here. He said, my enemies, my opposition will shoot at me, even when the police are around. But they won't do it when the FOI is here. Young brother said that to us. And he wanted us to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for sending the FOI. But the young soldiers in the mosque, we were able to communicate with them and tell them to go and let the people know that we were coming with the meals that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan desired to feed 2,000 people. We're coming to O Block, where no one feels safe going. We're going into the Wentworth Gardens, where we took some of the young juniors and they got the shock of seeing how some people live. And we weren't able to hit all of the areas, but the areas that we went to, they were so appreciative because our words were, this is a gift from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Many of the people said, thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank Brother Farrakhan. How is he doing? How's his health? Man, he's a bad man. Brother, they loved the minister. The sisters wanted to take pictures with us. The brothers wanted to take pictures, but many of them said, thank the minister. Give the minister our love and the greetings.
I appreciate you, Mr. Farrakhan. Man, we love you. Man, we trying to get you in office somewhere, man. We need you to be.
If you talk to him, he got me on camera. Minister Farrakhan, you are one of my best. I promise you that, bro.
Praise be to Allah.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. And it was so powerful for us because we got to see how much they loved our man and the love that they showed us. It was really something.
So we're here at Lincoln United Methodist Church in Pilsen, also Healthy Hood Chicago organization, as well as Trap House Chicago and Canvas, different organizations from the Black and Brown community here in the heart of the Mexican community in Pilsen, where the pastor is Sister Reverend Emma Lozano and her husband Slim Coleman, as well as now their daughter, Sister Tanya Lozano, who is taking up the mantle of leading the youth. And this is a really historic church where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has spoken and closed out his 2015 tour prior to the Justice or Else March in Washington, D.C. And we're here today during Eid at the end of Ramadan on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his desire to help feed 2,000 people from the community. And this was one of the parts of the community, our Mexican family, that he wanted to make sure that we fed. And they were so wonderful in receiving the food and anticipating the gift of food from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, also from the Let's Eat to Live Cafe that they were all very excited about. So it's just beautiful to see the spirit of unity, to see the spirit of not only spiritual unity, but economic and social movement of Black and brown people, young people, as you can hear and see, coming together to try to do something to better the condition of our community, inspired by the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
We're doing this for a man who has shown his love to the people, shown his love to his community, the Muslims. The act of delivering or transferring those meals from our hands to the hands of our people is really an expiation for our sins. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us the assignment, but because we went out and fulfilled the assignment, the blessing or the expiation of sins and the mercy that Allah would show was transferred over to us. And I believe the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan knew that.
As we go through this journey as believers and our blessings, which comes from Allah through our hard work, I just want to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, sincerely thank him for always considering our people, you know. But a little bit of light coming from someone can really do a lot. And I thank Allah over and over again that we are given the time, we are here in this time to be able to share that with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. That's where I'm at.
I thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for giving that to us to do, which was not a burden, was not an assignment, it was not work. We loved it, we enjoyed it, we had a sense of purpose, and we were happy that day. Yes.
And I say to all of us, to the believers in the nation of Islam, thank you for helping me with your charity that allows me to be charitable to many. And I thank you so very much, because the enemy would have loved to cut off my blessings, but he just can't reach heaven.
Praise belongs to Allah. In the most holy name of Allah, who came in a person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom our holy praises are forever due. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. I further bear witness that the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, the man who has been among us, working for 60 years now, and we did not know who he was, but by Allah's grace, we know who he is. And we joyously proclaim to the world that the Jesus, the Messiah, that my Christian mom and Christian grandma and your Christian mom and Christian dad and grandma, and maybe your Christian self, has been looking for all your life. We joyfully proclaim today that that Jesus, that Messiah, is the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. In their names, family, Assalamu alaikum. I am honored and humbled that you would join me and us this evening for episode 3 of our new show, Opening the Files with Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I thank my dear brother, Brother Warren Muhammad, who assists me in this project. He's such a professional, he's such a scientist, and I could not do this without him. So I'm thankful to Brother Warren doing or opening the files, coming on the heels of the great show we had with my dear sister Janita, doing a math with Dr. Wesley. We are transitioning or have transitioned to a slightly different focus. In opening the files, as we saw in the first 2 episodes, and as I pray you will take this journey with me, you will see every hidden thing that affects our people, that this government and this world has done against, or kept from our people. We are cracking open those files. Allah, I believe, has blessed us to be able to do so as students of the Messiah. We have been blessed, those who are plugged in to Allah, His Christ, and His Messiah. Yes, the Nation of Islam. Allah has blessed us with sight that comes from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's a perspective, it's a roadmap, it's a picture box that helps all of us make sense of all that we are looking at. There's a lot of background, Brother Warren, background noise. I don't know whose side that is on. Thank you. So, welcome, family, to episode 3 of Opening the Files. Now, this evening, we have a special session, if you will, a class session. It's appropriate to call it that. Oppenheimer, the atomic bomb, and the mother wheel. We did not intend to do episode 3 of this subject, but I was blessed to see the movie Oppenheimer, and I enjoyed it very much. I watched the movie twice and studied it, and I was taken aback by some of the subtle hints that were dropped in the movie. And then I had the privilege of watching Dr. Stephen Greer, a very renowned ufologist, scholar of the UFO phenomenon. I had the privilege of watching his interview recently on Vlad TV with Sean Prez, and they discussed the Oppenheimer, or they discussed Oppenheimer. And watching and listening to Dr. Greer and reflecting on the movie Oppenheimer, I said that would be a great subject to take up for episode 3 of Opening the Files, because there's some files that very much need to be opened regarding Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb. And we want to clarify, if we may, some matters raised by Dr. Greer regarding the connection between the UFO phenomenon and the atomic bomb that Oppenheimer set off in the desert during World War II. So thank you, family, for joining us. Those who have availed yourself to our brief, our Oppenheimer brief. We appreciate you, of course. This is my habit, my way. I don't like, family, to advance any novel claim or idea without backing it up with a document. The matter here is credibility. There are many people out there, many teachers that the people cling to. And I have to be honest, I don't, most don't have a lot of credibility with me. There is the trend to sound as exotic as we can, make as exotic a claim as we can to tickle the ears of the people. And more often than not, the claim we are making is spun from whole cloth, or it is a fudging of facts. And so credibility is at a significant low, in my opinion, family, with so many, or in the landscape of our intelligentsia today. So I don't ever like to advance a claim without accompanying it with a document that you can vet the sources, the credibility of our claim. So the basis of our discussion tonight, our class session, if you will, tonight, is the document that we prepared. You can access it. The instructions to access this document should be in the chat and scrolling on the bottom. There was some difficulty with Cash App. I guess Cash App is crashing. If Cash App is not available, PayPal should allow you to order and access the Oppenheimer brief, is what I'm calling it, 38-page brief sourcing the claims, the arguments that we are making this evening. Now, the movie Oppenheimer, as I said, I very much enjoyed it. There were some jewels dropped. There were some very important hints conveyed, hinting to the bigger picture of America's nuclear program. We want to unpack or shine light on that bigger picture, the story behind the movie. And so our conversation, our discussion this evening is titled Oppenheimer, the Atomic Bomb, and the Mother Wheel. The Mother Wheel is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching us for 90 years now. Before there was a field of ufology, the academic study of UFOs, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us a clear understanding of that which is flying around in our skies today. That which the United States government has now hosted 2 public hearings in the last 2 years, coming clean, it would appear, regarding the reality of these so-called UFOs, now retagged UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. But all of these names, UFOs, UAPs, flying saucers, flying disc. All of these are colorful names to hide what they really are, as described by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He teaches us from God that the main object flying around not just the skies of the US, but flying around and violating the airspace of every nation on the planet. The main object, unidentified by the government, but identified by God to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1931. This object is the mother wheel. Why mother wheel? Because it's the mother of 1,500 baby wheels. The typical UFO or flying saucer is a circular and domed craft that we know to be baby planes. There are 1,500 of them, and they are carried on a bigger plane, the mother wheel, or mother plane, or mother ship. This larger craft, a veritable aircraft carrier, among other things, is a half mile by half mile in diameter. It is a marvel of military technology. It is not piloted by aliens from Venus or Mars or the reticular star system. No, all of that is hoax and misinformation. The mother ship, the mother wheel, and the baby planes were built by the original black man. Beginning in 1909, construction was completed in 1929, and these craft were built on the island of Nippon, now called Japan. So when we say Oppenheimer, the atomic bomb, and the mother wheel, the story behind the movie, we are saying that the mother wheel, as taught to the world by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it is the context of the Oppenheimer, or the nuclear bomb that Oppenheimer is called the father of. We are saying that, in fact, this mother wheel is the context of America's nuclear program. Hints were dropped in the movie of a particular knowledge that J. Robert Oppenheimer had. He was a very wise man, a very informed man. And he dropped hints here and there of what he knew. We want to elaborate and give a much fuller picture than what we find in Christopher Nolan's great movie, Oppenheimer. ufologist, Dr. Donald R. Burlington, in his interesting book, UFO Secrecy and the Fall of J. Robert Oppenheimer, he argues that the man known as the father of the atomic bomb was betrayed by the government that he served so faithfully, being stripped of his security clearance and being denied the privilege of working for the government for the remainder of his life. Now, the official story and the story that is memorialized in Christopher Nolan's box office hit, Oppenheimer. The official story is that because J. Robert Oppenheimer flirted with communism and flirted with certain left-wing causes, once the Cold War chill set in after the Second World War, the government turned on Oppenheimer because of his leftist leanings. And this is why he was denied a renewal of his security clearance, disallowing him to work with the US government in these top secret programs ever again. Dr. Burlington suggests that this is all frivolous cover up. Dr. Burleson hypothesizes that it's the UFO phenomenon that is the cause of Oppenheimer losing his security clearance. Dr. Burleson says that, quote, Oppenheimer was involved by the direction of at least one American president in at least two highly secret UFO crash retrieval operations. He says, Dr. Burleson, the real reason for the discontinuance of Oppenheimer's security clearance had a great deal of some government officials to take him, Oppenheimer, out of the loop with regard to findings regarding the UFO phenomenon. So, in other words, because Oppenheimer, who was involved in top secret operations regarding UFOs, in particular, crash UFO retrievals, when the government turned on Oppenheimer, when they wanted him out of the UFO secrets loop, they denied him security clearance on the pretense that it was his left-wing leanings in his early days. We can agree with Dr. Burleson's general hypothesis that the UFO phenomenon is an important part of the backdrop of the Oppenheimer affair, dramatized in the new movie Oppenheimer. However, Dr. Burlington only considers the relevance of the UFO phenomenon to the post-war trajectory of Oppenheimer's work and career. In contrast, we suggest here that the UFO phenomenon is at the very root of the development of the atomic bomb. In other words, Dr. Burlington believes that it was only after the war that Oppenheimer's UFO connections became relevant to his story. I am suggesting that before the war, Oppenheimer's encounter with the nuclear bomb, Oppenheimer's role in or with the nuclear bomb. It has a UFO context, if you will, that predates the end of World War II. It has a UFO context that goes back to 1933. We will elaborate on that, Allah willing. We are suggesting that the UFO phenomenon is at the very root of the development of the atomic bomb. While Oppenheimer is hailed as the father of the atomic bomb, it was a pre-war UFO event that led directly to Trinity. The morning of July 16, 1945, saw the explosion of this world's first atomic bomb in New Mexico's desert lands, 300 miles south of Los Alamos. J. Robert Oppenheimer was the director of the Los Alamos Laboratory. The test site is today called Trinity, because that was a code name that Oppenheimer assigned to this first detonation of a nuclear bomb. Why did he name this nuclear explosion Trinity? In the movie, Oppenheimer invokes the concept of a three-personed God to explain his choice, and it would be claimed later that Oppenheimer was inspired by the Christian poetry of John Donne. However, not only was Oppenheimer a non-practicing Jew, he was also a deep student and an admirer of Hinduism. And he learned the Sanskrit language so that he could read the Vedic texts like the Bhagavad Gita in its original tongue. A number of scholars have thus concluded that Oppenheimer named the site Trinity with the Hindu rather than the Christian three-person God in mind. The Trinity or Trimurti of Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Indeed, while watching the Trinity explosion that morning, it was the Hindu gods that occupied Oppenheimer's mind. He later recounted that at the moment immediately after the nuclear explosion, a few people laughed, most people were silent, some cried, but him, Oppenheimer, the words of the Hindu god Vishnu as found in the Bhagavad Gita, popped into his head as he watched the nuclear plume in the desert. Oppenheimer recalled as he's watching the plume. He recalled Vishnu showing himself in his multi-armed form with the radiance of 1,000 suns and saying Vishnu and channeling Vishnu, Oppenheimer saying, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The movie Oppenheimer begins with an opening caption, a classic quote from Greek mythology. Quote, "Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. For this, he was chained to a rock and and tortured for eternity. End quote. Prometheus's decision brought mankind closer to the status of the Greek gods. This fire, we are told, could represent technology, scientific exploration, even advanced weaponry. So Oppenheimer has been described as an American Prometheus, the man who gave them, mankind, the power to destroy themselves. That's worded right. But as we shall show, inshallah, God willing, it was not the mortal Oppenheimer who stole fire from the gods. Rather, it was God Himself who gifted this fire to mankind, His enemy. What? What sense does that make, Brother Dr. Wesley? Well, if you stay with us, family, for the duration of this presentation, I do believe you understand what we mean. Oppenheimer rightly understood the power inherent within the atom as divine power. In a famous quote repeated in the movie, the father of the atom bomb said, quote, "The atomic bomb is a terrible revelation of divine power." Wow. This statement is quite pregnant with implication and with significance. In a book that I wrote and published in 1998, The Book of God, an encyclopedia of proof that the black man is God. And the book is available on our website. We said in the book in 1998, the study of the atom, nuclear physics, is the scientific study of Allah. It is one of the most revealing theological pursuits. The mind and the power of Allah were first observable in the atom. End quote. It was the most honorable Elijah Muhammad who has taught us of the divine nature and divine history of the micro atom and the macro atom. How came the black God, Mr. Muhammad? This is the way he was born. In total darkness. There was no light nowhere. And out of the orbit of the universe of darkness, there sparkled an atom of life, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says. Long before there was a where and a when, he was God. A little small atom of life rolling around in darkness, building up itself, just turning in darkness, making its own self. How came the black God, Mr. Muhammad? He is self-created. All praises belongs to Allah. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, from God Himself, teaches us that the beginning began around 76 or 78 trillion years ago. God at that time was a powerful but inconspicuous force that had been lying dormant and hidden for an unspecified number of eons, hidden within a substantive material darkness, a triple darkness of space. At a certain point, some 76 or 78 trillion years ago, that divine force mysteriously started pulsating, and an atom exploded into existence. giving birth to sound and to light. Of course, the singularity, Big Bang scenario of modern scientific theories parallels the divine teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad on this point. They parallel each other in ways that must be appreciated. The father of the so-called Big Bang theory is George Lemaitre, Belgian cosmologist and Catholic priest. Lemaitre, in May 1931, advanced a very novel at that time, but very important theory by combining the new science of nuclear physics with the second law of thermodynamics. Lemaitre scientifically and mathematically proved or argued that the universe began with a primeval atom, a single quantum of matter that gave birth to everything in the universe. After the atom underwent a violent radioactive explosion billions of years ago, producing an ever-expanding fireworks show of cosmic rays that continues to this day. The cosmic rays shooting through the universe are essentially fossils of that initial divine atom that exploded. This is what we are told. These cosmic fireworks marked the beginning and, we might add, marked the fiat lux moment of the universe. Fiat lux, of course, is the Latin rendering of the biblical statement, let there be light. But it gets deeper, dear family. Lemaitre's primeval atom, single atom, that at the beginning of the universe exploded, giving birth to the universe, just as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. Lemaitre's primeval atom was identified with the mythological cosmic egg, a religious tradition. This widespread ancient tradition symbolically described the primeval substance in creation as an egg in which everything was contained, including God, and out of which everything emerged, including God. This is why the primeval atom, that original atom, that atom at the beginning of the universe, this started it all. This is why it has since been called Lemaitre's egg, in recognition of its relation to the cosmogonic egg of ancient mythology. Both the primeval atom of Lemaitre's scientific cosmology and the cosmic egg of ancient religious mythology corroborate the divine teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He spoke of the connection between the egg and the atom himself in his important book, Our Savior Has Arrived. He said, quote, take a magnifying glass and start looking at these little atoms out here in front of you. You see they are egg-shaped and they are oblong. You crack them open and you find everything in them that you find out here. End quote. The universe was hatched from a primeval cosmic egg, an atom that exploded into material existence. With the birth of this atom, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, we have the manifestation of that all important yet mysterious force called electricity. Manly P. Hall, the renowned scholar of ancient and esoteric traditions, informs us that the ancients used the serpent because of its motion to symbolize electricity or force. Electricity passing between the poles of a spark gap is serpentine in its motion. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and science backs him up, that there was some measure of intelligence inherent in the atom. The atom was never an inanimate object. The atom, from the very beginning was animated by and with the spirit of God Allah and the mind of God Allah. Very important to our discussion of Oppenheimer, the atomic bomb, and the mother wheel. Western science gives us good reason to believe and identify the primeval atom as the hydrogen atom, the simplest of all atoms with the atomic number 1, possessing only one proton, one electron, and no neutron. The hydrogen atom is the foundation of the material universe, as all other atoms of the periodic table are only complex forms built upon this simple one atom. With the intelligence within this original primeval atom, it self-evolved the first brain cell or neuron, powered by that mysterious electricity. And subsequently, the divine brain of God was the first anatomical structure to develop. God's brain power will eventually grow to be limitless, and with it, he willed the full divine human form into existence, atom by atom, cell by cell, over a period of divine self-evolution or self-creation that took 6 trillion years, according to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This then is the esoteric and the theological backdrop to the atomic bomb that J. Robert Oppenheimer is called the father of, from the divine history of the atom, is the history of the divine evolution of God himself from the microscopic atom to the macroscopic atom, Allah, the original man. We can thus understand better Oppenheimer's words that we quoted earlier. The atomic bomb is a terrible revelation of divine power. Indeed, it is. Oppenheimer knew something that most don't know, but which you all now know if you didn't already know. It is, I think, proper to point out here that the mythological cracking of the cosmic egg is the equivalent of the scientific splitting of the atom. But it was not Oppenheimer or even the Americans to whom this fire of the gods was first given. It was Germany. In December 1938, it was German scientists who first split the atom. A heavy uranium atom at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Chemistry in Berlin. Hours after this announcement was made in America, American scientists at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, duplicated the German results. Fire has indeed been lowered from heaven. And Western man, as a result, was filled with the hubris of Icarus. In the words of Arthur William Henry, quote, humankind had negotiated a new deal with God, end quote. They are chesty now, mankind, Americans in particular. They are chesty now, just as Allah likely intended. We often say that the wiser people play chess while others play checkers. Well, God plays chess on a whole nother divine level. Stay with me as I unpack that. Now, all of this begs an important question. Is it merely an accident of history that Germans in 1938 were the first to discover this process that gives access to the fire of the gods? No, it is not. The German discovery of fission, the cracking of the atom, the splitting of the atom, that must be seen in the context or understood in the context of Germany's overall tremendous scientific advancements during and leading up to World War II. Germany was so technologically advanced, decades superior to every other country at the time. In fact, so much of today's technology that we take for granted, the seeds of it are in Nazi Germany. It can be said that America, for example, would not have a space program if it wasn't for the work of Nazi engineers like Herman Oberth, the older gentleman, and Werner von Braun, the younger gentleman, both key figures in developing Germany's rocket technology. Through Operation Paperclip, Werner von Braun was brought to the US and became foundational to America's rocket technology and America's space program. He went on to be a very important administrator at NASA. Nazi Germany is known to have worked secretly on wonder weapons. When the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan were defeated by the Allies at the conclusion of World War II, the Allied nations found and confiscated a treasure trove of advanced technology in Germany, which these countries quickly reversed engineered and developed in the post-war period. But the question for us this evening is, whose advanced technology was Germany reverse engineering before and during the war that led to their scientific breakthrough? The Nazi scientists Oberth and von Braun went on record giving us a hint to the answer to that question. They went on record declaring, quote, "We had help," end quote. Help from whom? When a reporter asked Werner von Braun how the Nazis became so advanced, he said, quote, "We had help from them," and he pointed upwards. Likewise, when Professor Herman Oberth was asked a similar question, he replied candidly, quote, "We cannot take credit for our record advancement in scientific fields alone. We have been helped." When asked by whom, Oberth replied, quote, "The peoples of other worlds," end quote. What other worlds, Professor Oberth? In 1954, Oberth began publicly discussing or disclosing his conviction that, quote, "flying saucers are real and that they are spaceships from another solar system." It's understandable why he would believe that at the time. Professor Oberth publicly declared that these flying saucers are, quote, "manned by intelligent observers who are members of a race of very high order," he says. Professor Oberth said beginning in 1954 that these flying saucers with their intelligent observers from a very high order race, they were conducting systematic long range investigations of men and animals and atomic centers and centers of armament production. Professor Oberth said matter of factly that these craft are, quote, "propelled by distorting the gravitational field, converting gravity into usable energy," end quote. Wow. He sounds very informed. How is it, Mr. Oberth, that this race of very high order helped the Germans with secrets propelling such record scientific advancement? Where did the German help? Or how did the German help from these flying saucers and the intelligence behind them? How did this help come to Germany? The answer to that question is through the intermediary of Benito Mussolini's Italy. Let me explain. Italy's oldest recorded modern UFO sighting was in 1931, 2 years after the mothership and her fleet of baby planes took flight. An example of a very remarkable case, very relevant to our discussion, is revealed in this remarkable document. A 1936 case report handwritten on stationery bearing the seal of the kingdom's Senate and rewritten. That's the yellow report, and rewritten by a confidential informant, the white report. Both reports are with accompanying sketches. This is a 1936 case report, official case report, rewritten by a government employee. And this report was put in the hands of Italy's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Galeazzo Shano, who was the son-in-law of El Duce, Benito Mussolini himself. This confidential report reveals that on the morning of August 17, 1936, a huge cylindrical or cigar-shaped or torpedo-shaped mothership was seen flying over the regions of Venice, followed by two smaller flying saucers. The agent who observed the mothership and the two flying saucers described the saucers as between 30 and 32 meters long, and they were metallic, polished metallic, and reflecting the light of the sun. The agent records that two fighter aircraft from the nearby Air Force base were scrambled to intercept the objects, but they failed to reach them. In the sketch, the size difference between the Air Force fighter and the mother craft is nicely illustrated. So this is a 1936 official report to the government of a Air Force encounter with a mother craft and the smaller flying saucers or baby planes. In another case, according to Italian government records, one of these disc-shaped crafts landed and was retrieved, partially intact, by the fascist regime in June 1933. Italian journalist Robert Pinotti, who was the Secretary General of the Italian National UFO Center and Pentagon whistleblower and former top National Reconnaissance Office staffer David Gruss, who was the star, if you will, of the most recent congressional hearing on UAPs that we just witnessed. Both of these sources revealed that 14 years before the famous Roswell, New Mexico UFO crash, a 30-foot long flying saucer landed in Magenta, Lombardy, a satellite town of Milan in northern Italy. There are official confidential telegrams from June 1933 confirming the landing and the acquisition by the Italian government of this disc-shaped craft. Benito Mussolini not only ordered the press to report nothing of this craft, the craft was, according to the reporting of journalist Alfredo Lasani, the disc-shaped craft was recovered and discreetly hidden in one of the hangars of the aeronautical establishment in the Sai Machete area. Mussolini established, as a consequence of retrieving this 1933, or retrieving this landed disc-shaped craft in 1933, and this is important. This was not a crashed craft, as will be the case in 1947. This was a landed craft in 1933. And as I've looked deeply into the matter, it appears that this 1933 calling card, we'll get to that, this 1933 calling card involved a landed craft, baby plane, but no pilots. Later, claims will be made to muddy the waters of this case that some Nordic, some Aryan looking pilots were discovered with this craft. That is false. That is a claim made by demonstrable liars. We'll get to that in another conversation. But what we can tell is that in 1933, the Italian government of Benito Mussolini took possession of a baby plane that landed in Lombardy in northern Italy. That craft, with no humans or pilots, living or dead, associated with it, was hidden in a particular hangar in Marchetti. Mussolini established a special intelligence unit to study this craft, to attempt to reverse engineer this craft. The Special Intelligence Unit was called RS-33 Cabinet. RS is the acronym for Special Researchers, and 33 means 1933. Mussolini, we are told, put in charge of this unit and its task of studying the retrieved disc Italy's Nobel Prize winning inventor, Guglielmo Marconi, who was head of the Italian Royal Academy. We are told that Mussolini at first thought this was an unconventional flying vehicle of the French, British, or German, a secret weapon of one of those nations. But as Marconi studied, and his people studied the craft, Marconi grew to believe that it was extraterrestrial in nature. According to Pentagon whistleblower David Gruss, because of the close relationship between Mussolini and Pope Pius XII, El Duce informed Pope Pius XII of the recovered craft. The Vatican was thus in the loop from the very beginning. So too was the German Führer Adolf Hitler, eventually. Now, important. I can't unpack and elaborate this important point tonight, but 1933 was a very consequential year in the divine scheme of things. In 1933, Allah sent down, gifted to the enemy, one of the baby planes. In 1933, January, Franklin Delano Roosevelt assumes the office of the presidency and will be president from 1933 to 1945. And his presidency is of critical importance to the discussion of the UFO phenomenon. His presidency, in fact, is crucial to the discussion of the War of Armageddon. So the year that Allah gifted mankind with a baby plane to study over in Italy, the same year President Roosevelt assumes office, and President Roosevelt is critical to this story of the mother wheel and the battle in the sky. He's critical to that story. In that same year, 1933, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan is born. The Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan is the fulcrum, is the critical figure among us in this story or this drama of the War of Armageddon. The battle in the sky, the mother wheel versus mankind. The mother wheel versus the enemies of God. The most important figure among us in that drama is the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. It can be said, in fact, that the War of Armageddon today revolves around his person. He was born in 1933, the same year Allah landed a baby plane in Italy, allowing the Italian government to recover and study it. The same year, the most important president in terms of the War of Armageddon, American president, in the beginning stages of this story, President Roosevelt, who is critical to the story of the atomic bomb, as we will get to. He assumed office in 1933. So 1933 was a very consequential year in this story that involves Oppenheimer, the atomic bomb, and the mother wheel. The Vatican and Pope Pius XII was immediately in the loop regarding this recovered flying disc or baby plane. Eventually, Adolf Hitler and the Germans would be brought into the loop. The pact that Italy and Germany signed, making the two nations allies. According to the documents uncovered by Alfredo Lissani, the pact, the German-Italian pact, required Italy to share the study of this craft with Germany, and eventually passing the material to the Nazis. as we shall discuss below or later, we have reason to believe that the study of this 1933 Italian recovered flying disc may well have led to the 1938 German breakthrough with the atom. So Italy has a baby plane gifted to them by God in 1933. Italy shares this, Mussolini shares this information with Pope Pius XII. The Vatican and the fascist government are now in cahoots regarding the study of a baby plane and the cover up to keep knowledge of it from the world. And then when Italy aligns with Germany, Hitler is brought into the loop, and Hitler is given access, and his scientists are given access to the disc, the craft, the baby plane. His scientists are allowed to study it, and Italian and German scientists are together studying this advanced technology, this supremely advanced technology from a source that none of them understand. What is certain is that this 1933 recovered craft is the context to so-called Nazi UFOs that we hear so much about. The Nazi UFOs, the flying disc, the bear, all of this experimental technology of the Nazis. There was test flown in 1942 and 1945, or 1943 and 1945. All of this is the fruit of the Italian German study of the baby plane that Italy had in its possession since 1933. It is error, family, as some students of the UFO phenomenon claim. It's error to make the Nazi UFOs or Nazi flying saucers or Nazi flying discs, to make them the basis of the UFO phenomenon is error. The Nazi flying disc is the fruit of Italian and German scientists studying an authentic so-called UFO, a real baby plane that Allah allowed the fascist regime of Italy to take possession of in June of 1933. This is the context of German advanced scientific breakthroughs, the wonder weapons that Germany was secretly, that the Nazis were secretly developing. They were doing so as a consequence of the access they were given to this baby plane that fell into the hands of their ally, Mussolini. Both the Germans and the Italians produced their own version of flying discs based on their study of the baby plane that Italy was in possession of. Now, April 1945, The U.S. is victorious. The Allies are victorious in the war. The U.S. Army while it's bombing Italy, mysteriously spares Marchetti, the city where this presumably alien technology was hidden. That city was mysteriously spared bombing by the Americans. How did the Americans know to spare that city of its bombs? It carpet bombed Italy, bringing Italy to its knees, but it didn't drop a bomb on Marchetti. What did the Americans know that compelled them to spare this area, and how did they know it? Well, according to David Gruce, the Pentagon whistleblower, Pope Pius XII ratted out the Italians, or ratted out Mussolini. Pope Pius XII informed the Americans of the recovered baby plane in the possession of the Italians. According to David Gruce, Pope Pius XII backdoored Mussolini, informing the Americans of the Italian possession of this technology. And this is why the Americans spared bombing in that area, because the Americans knew that there was advanced technology, allegedly alien technology, stored there. And when the 1st Armored Division captured the city, the Americans retrieved that craft, according to Pentagon whistleblower David Gruce. So after World War II, America had in its possession the 1933 landed and recovered baby plane. As mentioned, we have reason to believe that the 1938 German breakthrough with the atom resulted from the effort to reverse engineer the 1933 recovered disk. It has been theorized that nuclear energy fuels these so-called flying saucers. At least this is one of the suggestions coming out of the decades-long reverse engineering efforts of the U.S. government, which Pentagon whistleblower David Gruce revealed during the latest congressional hearing. There is great evidence that the baby planes, as studied first in Italy and Germany, and then in America, that these Western scientists were able to discern that the craft are powered by some nuclear power, atomic energy, nuclear propulsion. And the evidence is strong, and we present it in our Oppenheimer brief. The evidence is strong that the atomic secrets of the baby plane that fell into the possession of the West, the atomic secrets of that craft, spawned the atomic bomb of the US, spawned the nuclear weapons program of the US. Now, documents linked to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt actually confirm the development, or confirm that the development of the atom bomb is in fact connected to the recovered so-called alien technology. These are two very important documents, leaked documents attributed to President Roosevelt. Both of these documents establish the direct connection between the atomic secrets, as they are called, of the recovered UFO and the atomic bomb of the US. The clearest nexus between the UFO recovery and research operation on the one hand, and the atomic bomb operation or Manhattan Project on the other hand, the clearest nexus between these two operations is Dr. Vannevar Bush. He was over the National Defense Research Committee in 1940 and over its successor, the Office of Scientific Research and Development, in 1941. As such, it was Bush who coordinated almost all wartime military research and development and initiated the Manhattan Project. Dr. Bush clearly shows that these two operations are connected. Dr. Bush, by two operations, meaning the research of the recovered UFO operation and the atomic bomb operation, these two operations here in America were connected. Dr. Bush, in addition to publicly leading the Office of Scientific Research and Development, Dr. Bush also headed a secret unit tasked with studying the recovered disk. Now, important. The name of this committee that Dr. Bush, led, that secretly studied for President Roosevelt, secretly studied the disk that America is now in possession of. Or, I'm sorry, she isn't in possession of the disk yet. That won't happen until after the war. America would take possession of the 1933 disc. However, these documents indicate that America had access to some of the materials that were a part of the study of that disc. The committee that studied these materials was led by Dr. Bush, and it was called, quote, Special Committee on Non-Terrestrial Science and Technology. Non-terrestrial science and technology. Now, we're going to come back to that language. Non-terrestrial. Special Committee on Non-Terrestrial Science and Technology. In an important February 21st, 1942 memo from President Roosevelt, he acknowledges, quote, the atomic secrets learned from the study of celestial devices. And he acknowledges that these atomic secrets are of great significance toward the development of a super weapon of war. In other words, in both of the documents that we highlighted, President Roosevelt explicitly references the study of these celestial devices. He explicitly references the atomic secrets. This is 1942. The Manhattan Project is just now getting started. And in these presidential memos, Roosevelt acknowledges that the development of this super weapon of war is dependent on the atomic secrets learned from the study of these celestial devices, the study that Dr. Vannevar Bush led. Now, notice the language. The special committee was on non-terrestrial science and technology. Non-terrestrial rather than extraterrestrial. Very important. Extraterrestrial necessarily means originating from outside of the Earth's atmosphere, from space or from another planet, an alien. Dear family, we in the Nation of Islam know that the so-called extraterrestrial hypothesis of the UFO phenomenon is wrong. The mother whale and her fleet of baby planes do not originate off planet. However, we can accept the language non-terrestrial. We reject the language extraterrestrial, but there's a certain sense in which we can accept the language non-terrestrial, and it is in this sense. While these craft do not originate off planet, these craft do originate on this planet. However, they do not originate from this world, Satan's world. This technology of the mother wheel and the baby planes, this technology is non-terrestrial because there is no terrestrial power that can claim this technology. Neither the US, Russia, China, or Japan. The mother wheel is indeed non-terrestrial in this sense. Personally, I prefer the term supra-terrestrial, which means not of the earth. situated above or superior to the earth and what belongs to the earth. The mother wheel and her fleet of baby planes are indeed supra-terrestrial. They are not of the earth, they are far above the earth and that which belongs to it, though they don't originate on another planet. And then, so 1942, this is after the Battle of LA of February 24th, 25th. In fact, the first memo is 2 days after the Battle of LA. I won't go into it tonight. We have a whole discussion on it later because it's not understood properly. But the memos from President Roosevelt acknowledging that America's effort to build a super weapon of war is based on atomic secrets learned from America's secret study of these celestial devices. This is 1942. America, even though the celestial device is still in the possession of Italy and Germany in 1942, but the US, who has spies over in both Italy and Germany, the US clearly, had access to some of the material that came out of the study of this baby plane. The US had access to some of the secrets that were revealed as a consequence of this study of that 1933 recovered craft, such that by 1942, President Roosevelt can claim that the atomic secrets learned therefrom is at the root of America's effort to build a super weapon of war. And then on July 4th, 1947, a flying disc deliberately exploded outside of Roswell, New Mexico. This was not a German project, as has been speculated. It was a divine project. Allah handing America his calling card with the American confiscation of the 1933 Italian landed crash, when America confiscated it in 1945 after the war, thanks to the tip from Pope Pius XII. America has that intact 1933 craft in its possession now. No bodies, just the craft and intact. In 1947, July 1947, Allah deliberately explodes a craft over Roswell, New Mexico. This is Allah handing America directly his calling card. The Air Force assembled as a result of the Roswell explosion. The Air Force assembled a special radiological team to be dispatched to the site to study the remains of the craft. And this team, this special radiological team that was dispatched to the site, it included Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer and Dr. Werner von Braun. And according to a July 16, 1947 memo from Lieutenant General Nathan F. Twining, according to that document, Oppenheimer, with his colleagues, examined the interior of the craft remains and a possible atomic energy source. An even more explicit statement is found in the Twining White House Intelligence Estimate Report of September 24th, 1947. In this important document, both J. Robert Oppenheimer and Professor Albert Einstein are listed as contributing members to the report. And this document explicitly identifies the Manhattan Project as a unified intelligence effort to exploit possible technological gains from recovered flying saucer craft. We're just touching on some of the material that I think, and we elaborate in much greater detail in our Oppenheimer brief. But the material indicates to me, and I believe to you if you examine the material, it indicates that, and President Roosevelt explicitly admits that the atomic weapons program of the U.S. is anchored in the atomic secrets of the baby plane that American and before them German and Italian scientists were able to extract from their study of the baby plane. Allah clearly gave an intact baby plane to the West to study in 1933, Italy, and then Germany. This craft was studied in Italy and Germany from 1933 to 1945. But during that process, some of that material, some of those secrets leaked over to America. And President Roosevelt and the special committee that he set up to study this material was able to use those atomic secrets to build America's super weapon of war, the atomic bomb, of whom J. Robert Oppenheimer is considered the father. So, Prometheus didn't steal fire from the gods. Allah gifted him with this fire. And of course, Allah, as the best knower, knew that mankind would weaponize this fire. Of course he did. Allah knows his enemy. But this still begs the question, why would Allah give the man he has come into the world to destroy, why give him such powerful secrets? The Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan revealed the answer to this question during his powerful lecture series, The Time and What Must Be Done. Episode 52 is entitled The Wheel, Allah, God's Calling Card. In it, the minister says, quoting the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Holy Quran further says that whenever God gets ready to destroy a people, he opens up the heavens for them and gives them the pleasure of what they seek or lust after. And then he destroys them. The Holy Quran further prophesies that the heavens would be open to this people, and the veil of secrecy, and the veil of every secret would be removed. This prophecy does not mean that the enemy will, after that, be able to win against the God in a battle between them and God. It's prophesied that as part of the preparations for the war to end all wars, the battle of Armageddon, that in preparation, in the lead up to that great battle, Allah actually will reveal secrets to his enemy, secrets that his enemy had lusted after. Allah will open up these secrets, remove the veil from over these secrets, and give his enemy a glimpse of them. And this still doesn't mean that the enemy will be able to defeat God. This is why we have to respectfully disagree with Dr. Stephen Greer, who is a wonderful ufologist with a wealth of information. But since the release of the Oppenheimer movie and Dr. Greer's subsequent sit down with Sean Prez on Vlad TV, the media has been all abuzz over particular claims that the ufologist made during this 2-hour conversation. Oppenheimer's nuclear bomb got attention of aliens worried we will destroy the earth, is how the headlines read. Dr. Greer suggests that the detonation of Trinity on July 16, 1945, got the attention of civilizations from different star systems who got worried and now see Earth's human population as both a risk to their own extraterrestrial civilizations and as poised to destroy the planet Earth itself. As a consequence of this new alien concern, these off-world civilizations, who Dr. Greer assures us, are fundamentally peaceful and are not a national security threat. Dr. Greer tells us they have been sending emissaries to Earth because of this concern. They have been sending emissaries to Earth, which is why there are so many UFOs flying around in Earth's skies. In addition, Dr. Greer claims that the aliens are concerned because since the successful Trinity explosion, this world's radar and weapons systems have been able to down numerous UFOs. He says, Dr. Greer, I think, says or enumerates 90 or so crashed UFOs. And because scientists of this world have been able to successfully reverse engineer some of these craft, the aliens are worried about what mankind has learned from this alien technology and worried that mankind might weaponize it against them, the aliens. No, sir. No, sir. With all of Dr. Greer's undeniably extensive knowledge, his narrative is way off. We can help with that. We, the Nation of Islam. I'm not being arrogant. It is with good reason that Professor Michael Lieb of the University of Illinois at Chicago has declared, quote, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan represent the capstone to this study of UFOs, end quote. Capstone represents the crowning point, the most important element of something, the decisive factor. The Nation of Islam is that with regard to the UFO reality. Dr. Greer, we can assure you that the scientists on board these craft, they are not extraterrestrial aliens. They are supra-terrestrial Muslim scientists, gods of the Black nation. We can assure you, Dr. Greer, that they were not caught off guard by the Trinity explosion. For they no doubt observed the process and the evolution of the atomic bomb from the very beginning. The fact that these craft, the baby planes, spend so much time over and around the nuclear facilities of this world is not an indication that the pilots are worried. It's an indication that Allah wants all the smoke. These craft don't represent benevolent, non-hostile aliens. These craft and the scientists piloting them have a military objective. These craft and the scientists piloting them, they indeed represent the single greatest national security threat to every nation on the planet today. Because God the Mahdi has come into the world to sit down every tyrant and every tyrannical government. These craft don't just hang out around nuclear facilities. They show up and they show out. As Robert Hastings has thoroughly shown, these craft and their pilots have total control over the nuclear systems of not just this country, but of every country on the earth with nuclear capabilities. At will, the intelligences aboard these craft can both disable a country's nuclear weapons system, and these craft can trigger that country's nuclear weapons system. And the country's military is totally powerless to intervene. As famously former United States Air Force lieutenant and missile test photographic officer, Dr. Robert Jacobs, filmed a sensational September 14, 1967 incident of one of these crafts disabling a flying Atlas D missile.
We watched that stage burn out. We watched the second stage burn out. We watched the third stage burn out. And into the frame came something else. It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead, which is represented by my thumb here. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, and then this thing flies up like this. Meanwhile, we're all going like this, fires another beam of light, goes around like this, we're going like this, fires another beam of light, goes down like this, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. Now, I saw that. I don't give a goddamn what anybody else says about it. I saw that on film. Phil Klass can kiss my ass. He wasn't there. I was.
The point is this: God allowed his enemy a peek into the secrets of the atom, thus enabling him to develop nuclear weapons. And all the while, God shows the enemy that he has total control of those nuclear weapons. God ain't playing checkers, he's playing divine chess. A calling card, family, is a device used to introduce oneself to someone in lieu of a formal social or business visit. In criminology, a calling card is a particular object deliberately left at the scene of a crime to both claim responsibility and to taunt the authorities. Allah, in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, left his calling card in Italy in 1933 and in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The two events are arguably the context and the origin of America's nuclear weapons program, not J. Robert Oppenheimer. When Oppenheimer said that the atomic bomb is a terrible revelation of divine power, he was speaking pure truth. And we have, inshallah, just outlined the real significance of that statement, the divine context of the atom, the fire that was unleashed in the nuclear bomb was not a fire that Prometheus stole from heaven. It's a fire that heaven gave to Prometheus, only to show Prometheus that he still has no chance in the fight against the gods. May Allah bless you, family. May Allah keep all of you. I will see if there's any questions. Well, it's too many to go through tonight. Stay tuned for our next installment, the next part of our conversation. I will leave with these words. The best secret and the last secret of ufology. The last secret, because Congress is holding hearings and revealing all of these government secrets of UFOs or UAPs. The last secret and the best kept secret that will likely never be disclosed at any government hearing. That last and best kept secret of the UFOs It's the Asiatic blackness of its pilots. May Allah bless you, family. That concludes my presentation, my conversation tonight. Assalamu alaikum.